Hi everyone, my name is Jyotsna. So welcome to MOMspiration event. So on the occasion of Mother's Day, we are Disha. Basically, the MOMspiration event is organized by Disha Publication, and Frontly is a co-organizer, and it's supported by Rotary International and hosted on Pragati E. It's on a virtual platform.
Okay.
So this event is on Mother's Day, right? So the event aims to acknowledge the significance of mother within the child's life. So this is and today's theme is child development. So where we'll be talking about mother's presence in their child life and how they develop their child. Okay, right. So let's just start with the introduction. First of all, it's an immensely honor to have you all, Dr. Praveen ma'am, Swati Gupta, and Ketki Agarwal ma'am. I'm so glad to have you on board today. So first, let's just start with the introduction. First is Ketki ma'am. Ketki is an accomplished leader with over a decade of experience in the social sector. Currently, she's the founder and trustee of Lens Foundation, Learning, Empowerment, Nutrition, and Skill Development. Ketki works in significant social areas where the foundation can bring about a measurable change in the life of underprivileged children. She is also the founder of LDExplained organization. It's a website supported by the Lens Foundation, which is India's first comprehensive resource website on learning disabilities and mental health wellness among children and young adults. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you.
We have Professor Dr. Praveen Suman. Dr. Praveen Suman is the director at Child Development Clinic Institute for the Child at Sri Gangaram Hospital. She is trained in development pediatrics at Robert Warner Rehabilitation Center at Buffalo Children's Hospital, Buffalo University, New York. She is the founder, member, and president of NGO for the Special Need Children Sati Support Society. And welcome, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And last, we have Swati Gupta. She is a proud mommy of two adorable munchkins, Ashwin and Riha. Professionally, she has 15 years of experience as a teacher in a renowned international school in Delhi, NCR. She has been sharing her motherhood journey and also working as a parenting advisor. And due to her, passion for the parenting and sharing the parenting journey, she has created Odyssey.
It's A to Z.
A2Z.com. So it's an online platform for teaching creative writing to kids from 6 to 12 years of age. Hi everyone.
Hello.
And it's a privilege to have you all. One is mother, and one is doctor, and one is a social person who working.
I'm also a mother to two children.
You all are mother, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So the today's session is child development. So we will be talking about child development. So my first question, what is the early intervention and how can it help a child? First is Praveen Suman ma'am.
So early intervention is the term which is used for stimulating and enhancing the development of children during first 3 years. So we must know that when a child is born, the first 3 years is a very critical time of the development. During this, the brain forms. All the connection, almost 90% of the brain develops during this first 3 years. So, and child achieves most of the major milestones. If we keep a track of all these milestones and we help the child to achieve these milestones, this is called early intervention. And this is done specially for children who are high risk. High risk means that they are likely to have chances of developing a certain kind of developmental disorders. For example, any premature child, any child who has a jaundice at birth, or any birth asphyxia, or any meningitis, any kind of problems at the time of birth, or sometimes there is a genetic disorders like Down syndrome you must have heard of, or a mother has some kind of malnutrition, mother has some uterine problems. So all these things predisposes the child to develop more and more neurodevelopmental disorders. So if we identify these children and help them during first 3 years, they can become as good as any other child. So this is called early intervention.
Okay. Okay. So thank you, Praveen ma'am. So Ketki ma'am, what's your take on this?
What she said is perfectly in sync with what I am.
Okay.
So, to understand what early intervention is, first we need to know what developmental milestones are. You know, so developmental milestones are a set of behavior or indicators that we can say, which each child performs by a certain age. Like by 8 months, he or she will be crawling. By 1 year, he or she will be walking. By 1.5, he or she will be speaking. So a parent need to kind of keep an eye on all these developmental milestones, and if they see a gap where their children are lacking, then they should go for the early intervention. uh, so early intervention refers to services that and supports that mm, can help young children with developmental delays, you know. So generally what happens is delays in communication and language are often the first signs of developmental problem in children. When first you notice if your child is not able to speak or unable to communicate, this is when the red flag is there.
Right.
So early intervention can help children in lots of ways. One is that early diagnosis and treatment, the chances of improvement are much more when rather than when it is done at a later stage, if you say, right? So, for example, my son, he was diagnosed with ADHD at the age of 4, and we did a lot of intervention at that age. Uh, as a result, he is now able to do all his daily functions and everything. Uh, I mean, like a normal child. If we were not, we didn't have the early intervention, it would have been difficult. So, you need to work with somebody who is trained to, have that confidence that you will be able to give your child what he or she needs. And early intervention से क्या होता है, the child confidence is also boosted. And early intervention is also mostly play based. कि जो, it's not like study, it is based on play and all that. So it is fun for children also. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Ketki ma'am. So Swati ma'am, what's your take on this?
So, more or less, Ketki ma'am and Praveen ma'am has said what exactly early intervention is. I would just like to add that it's my personal experience with other children since I've been teaching for such a long time, and it's normal to have all kinds of children around you. So my basic take, and it's like something which I always feel for my kids also, just not for ADHD children or any other children, but for normal kids who do not have any such problem. I feel learning wrong, unlearning, and relearning is very difficult. And that's why early intervention is important. Now, child will learn whatever they have to, looking at everybody, even if we don't intervene. But now the child can learn right as well as wrong. So early intervention is just kind of a bridging wherein you learn the same thing, but in a right manner, so that you don't have a chance of unlearning and then relearning, because unlearning and relearning is a very big task and it's another struggle for the child. So I feel early intervention is important because unlearning and relearning is difficult. Learning the right time, right thing in the right manner is important, and that's how things are going to be settled at the first place.
Thank you, everyone. According to you, how different stages of development play an important role in shaping a child's habit? So first with Ketki ma'am.
Okay. So again, I'll share a screen. So what do we know as a habit? Habit are often, repeated actions that we do every day, or it is an established practice that we do. Like brushing your teeth or taking a bath is an habit. So usually what happens is a child follows a sequence, that the first thing he or she learns is to, uh, brush, and then we teach them to potty train themselves, and then so on and so forth. So it is better for them to master one skill at a time rather than try to teach them a lot of things at one point of time. So what happens is, Praveen ma'am earlier said, that the first 3 to 5 years the brain is developing uh, very fast. So those are the years where we need to develop these habits and this habit formation. So when a child is a toddler, like 0 to 2 years, so that is when they are rapidly develops rapid pace of physical, emotional, and cognitively. So at this stage, it is critical for developing some early habits and training and discipline also. So, so at this stage, we have to ensure as parents that they are eating healthy and sleeping well. Once they are at the preschooler age, that is 2 to 5 years of age, there is a lot of emotional growth in them. So there's a physical growth also, and there's an emotional growth also, where they learn to make friends and control their emotions. So this is a prime time where you can teach them to make friends and be independent a little bit, so that they can eat on their own, or they can take a bath on their own. And then the last stage is like the school going children, 5 years and above. So they develop very socially now, because this is a stage where they meet other children and they develop socially. And sometimes defiance also is part of school going children. They want to defy everything you say. So this is a good time for you to teach your child caring for their own body and their hygiene, and making friends. So that's about it. Sorry, stop share. Yeah. How do I stop this? Stop. Sorry. Unable to hear you. Sorry.
Well put, Ketki ma'am. Okay, so Praveen ma'am, what's your take on this?
So, for habit formation, as the child develops, if we go by psychology, there are different stages of learning. First is called, for example, child learns through environment. First stage is called imitation. Whatever is happening in the environment, the child start imitating. Isn't it like when a child is small, you start clapping, he or she is also clapping. This is a stage how the child learns through the environment. And second stage comes when the child learns through the induction learning. He does a lot of activities, and through that he learns, and then they learn the pattern development through these learning stages. And these pattern helps them to develop language and visual development, which will be helpful later on in their development. So these are, and then comes the stage of cognition development, and then there is so whatever knowledge they are acquiring, how to use that knowledge, isn't it? So these are different stages how the child is learning, and then this helps in the formation of different habits. So we must be aware, so that if there is any deviation or delay during these learning phases, we must help the child so that there can be a normal development of the child.
Thank you, Praveen ma'am. So Swati ma'am, wow, what's your take on this?
So I also agree with what Praveen ma'am said. It's very important that your outside world or your physical changes, along with social, emotional, behavioral, thinking, communication, all these things are basically interlinked for development or developing of cognition skills or developing your cognition. So all these are linked and they each other depends and influence on others. So first 5 years are absolutely crucial. First 5 years are absolutely detrimental for the child's life, because that is the time when you can talk about their experiences, they understand relationship, they understand, they try to create millions of connections in their brains, and that's the time when the brain develops the most. So that's what I feel, and that all these things, so basically all social skills, emotional skills, behavioral things, thinking skills, communication skills, all these form a habit for them.
Okay. Thank you, Swati ma'am. So as you all know that parents influence child's life, whether it's father or a mother. But when it comes to a mother, there is a more significant influence in the child's life. So would you like to say something about it? Ki how a mother influence their child life? Just mother. So Ketki ma'am.
See, generally it is a team of effort, Bringing up a child is when both parents work together. But as a mother, you have additional responsibility of taking care of, their health, hygiene, education, you have to be the disciplinarian also. So I think the love and nurture that a mother can give is beyond anybody else's capacity, I think.
Thank you. So Praveen ma'am.
So mother is the pillar of the child's life, all genetic, if we go by all the genes are transferred to the child, all the nutrition when the child is in the womb is also important. So it is not after birth the mother is important, before birth also mother role is very very important. As a mother, your health, mother nutrition, mother psychological status, mental status, mother's habits in the form of, like, if the mother is cigarette smoker or alcohol intake, so all these things does affect the child who is going to born. And then when the delivery is happening, whatever happens during that time is also very important. As a during whenever we see a child who has a developmental problem, we always go back into the history, because everything is going to decide the future of a child. So it is all very important. And then when the child is born, then definitely providing an environment which is in a way which helps the child to bloom, so that in terms of nutrition, in terms of hygiene, in terms of education. And so mother role is cannot be explained, is something which has to be taken very very seriously. And mother has to be trained, in fact has to be given a knowledge how to raise a child, how to be how to raise a child in a manner that they should not be, in my practice every day I see they are too much attached or too much trying to do everything for the child. In during that, what happens, child is not able to do most of the activity himself. They'll be feeding a child who is 6-year child. Yesterday a parent came who they were feeding a child, 4-year-old child, still they puree the khichdi every time and they feed the child. So I want that mother should be educated how to feed, what to feed. They should be raising a child in a manner that the child is an independent identity. This is not that they have to live the life of a child. They have to make them independent. That's very very important.
Very good answer, I must say. Yeah. So Swati ma'am, what's your take on this? Yeah.
So my take is so and when you know that you've conceived your baby, and you know that the baby is in your womb. So you start feeling happy about the feeling, but at the same time you're nervous about what going to happen next. So so in that nervousness, you transfer that nervousness to your children as well. So if you're anxious, you're making your kids also anxious. So first and foremost, as a mother, I feel that my happiness, if I'm happy, my kids and my family is going to be happy. If I am content, my kids are going to be content. If I have getting if I'm always cribbing, my kids will crib no matter what. If I'm happy, I know my kids will be happy because they are seeing their mothers happy. So we are practical role models for our kids. Consciously, subconsciously, kids are definitely seeing us. Kids are seeing what we are doing, and they are practically trying to imitate them. As Praveen ma'am correctly said, the first thing they do is they imitate. You clap, they clap. You smile, they smile. You cry, they cry. No matter what, you can explain them. No, baby, I was happy. That's why I was crying. But the child is seeing the tears, and automatically the child is crying. No matter what. So I, as a mother, rather than teaching them anything, the first thing is I should be happy, so that I can keep my family happy. I can keep my family content. Now, talking about the logical sense, of course, there are certain disciplinary action. You cannot be helicopter parents. You cannot be standing on their neck and just giving them all the ways, beta, this handwriting is not good, improve it. Don't try to always improve them. Don't try to help them in everything. Give, you're not drawing well, come, I'll help you. So don't try to be helicopter parents, standing on their head and helping them and them making them dependent. It's very important to make them independent. Trust them. Teach them that yes, you trust them. Tell them you trust them, and please trust them and let them do what they want to. They will go wrong, but finally they will reach a place where they are independent children. So that is the first thing. Secondly, I want to teach them, or I generally tell my children to be affirmative. Affirmations are a part of my day to day routine. Like, I am strong, I am mindful, I am kind, I'm going to help somebody, I'm going to help my mom, I'm going to thank my mom and be grateful. That, as a mother, I think these things are very important. In all things will fall in place. Of course, child आज नहीं ABCD लिखेगा, कल लिख लेगा, परसों लिख लेगा. Studies will happen after 10 years. Nobody bother. I don't. My MBA degree is not helping me because I'm doing absolutely what I was not doing in my teaching job. My teaching job and my MBA is absolutely apart, but I'm doing it. Right? So after 10, 20 years, nothing is going to happen. But these value system or these kind of affirmation or trusting your kid will help them in successful lives, will help them in feeling that my mom was happy and I also want to be happy like her. So I am being a role model for my kids, and I should be a role model. Of course, I don't say I'll smile all the time or I'll be happy. Of course, I have bad days. I have cryful days. I have agitated days. I have angry days. But if you look at a whole sum, I will try to be happy all the time. I'll try to do things what I like so that my kids also learn from me.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah, I liked your answer actually. Okay. So my next question. What are the 5 basic areas that revolve during child development, and how are they correlated to each other? So first with Praveen ma'am.
So, as the child is born, we have already said first 3 years is the time when the brain is developing. And this is the time when the interconnection, which is called synapses in the brain, starts forming. So this is when the synapses are forming, child starts developing various milestones. So milestones happen in different domains. For example, one is gross motor skills. Motor skills can be gross motor. For example, child is walking, running, sitting, all these come on the gross motor. Then comes the fine motor. When child start holding objects, small pincer, this is called pincer grab. It generally comes with 10 months. 1 year, child start holding pen, and 1.5 start scribbling. So everything has a different age. Then is the called cognition. Cognition indicates our mental faculties. And there is another domain which is called language. Then language also has two components. One is an expression of the language, which is generally called speech. And then another component is receptive language, understanding of that language. So both the domains are very, very important, because in communication, which we these days, especially after COVID pandemic and all, we are seeing a lot of children with communication difficulties and all this stuff. So they have difficulty in understanding languages. So this is also one important. Then comes the social emotion, which is a very, very important and generally missed during the early years. We do not pay emphasis on the social interaction of a child, especially 0 to 2 years of age. That is the time we should be able to pick up. And all these things are interrelated. For example, a child who's 1 year, he will start walking, he will start speaking, he will start pointing objects, he will start speaking one word meaningfully, he understands who's the mother. So everything happens together. So this is how the network forms. In case due to some problem, due to genetic problem or metabolic or due to any other reason, if these connections are not forming appropriately, then there can be developmental problems, which can happen in the form that there can be a delay in any one of the areas which I have already domains which I have already described, or it can be in multiple domains, which is called global developmental delay. Or there can be deviations, like child is developing but not the way it's supposed to be, he is developing differently. That's called deviation. And there are certain developmental disorders in which there is a dissociation. For example, cerebral palsy, you must have heard, in which a child otherwise mentally fine, everything is fine, it is just that he has a difficulty in sitting or walking or some motor difficulties. So it is very important that all these developmental domains should grow together. If there is any deviation, delay or dissociation, this should be picked up at the earliest. During first 2 years is the time when generally motor things are picked up. After that, generally language is the one which is we are more interested in. So if these are picked up early intervention will really help these children.
Thank you, Praveen ma'am. So, Ketki ma'am, what's your take on this?
She has exactly said, what I was also going to say, the 5 domains and how they are interrelated. Again, I'll share a screen.
Okay.
So the 5 basic developmental areas are, one is like physical, in which they, physical is like walking, crawling, holding things. So both gross and fine motor skills come in physical development. Then there is socio-emotional development, which is like playing, interacting with others, and smiling and those things. The third area of development is cognitive, that is thinking, how they think, how they solve problems. Somebody has taken my toy, now how do I get it back? Or I want to reach this cookie, how do I reach it? I am so small and the cookie is up there. So those kind of thinking develops at one stage. And then there is adaptive development, in which you try eat yourself, dress yourself. And the last is the language, like Praveen ma'am said, both talking and listening. Language goes both ways. One is you learn to talk, and the other is you learn to listen. And all of these are interrelated. And all of these are critical for a proper development of a child. In deficiency, if there is a deficiency in one of the domains, then we need to intervene. So like Praveen ma'am already said that developmental delays, if you see in your child, then you need to intervene and give early intervention. So sometimes it happens that some areas may appear prominently to you, like the child is growing, so weight is increasing or the height is increasing. But some areas there's a slight, it's not very apparent, but it's happening, like the cognitive or adaptive. It's not very apparent, you can't see it, but at some point of time whole child is developed, and the whole 4-5 domains are covered.
You are on mute.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so Swati ma'am, what's your take on this?
So actually, pretty much everybody is covered. So Ketki ma'am has covered a lot of points, as well as Praveen ma'am has mentioned everything. I would just like to add, like, there's a theory called the watertight theory. So watertight theory is everything has its own places, and accordingly they are so watertight that it cannot spill over to another. But in child development, or in these 5 areas of development, there is so much of overlap and there's so much of interaction that they are not separate at all. They are absolutely correlated, whether it be physical, whether it be socio-emotional, whether it be cognitive, whether it be general learning competencies, in which language skills come, in which understanding or communication comes. So all these are basically interlinked. It's just a part of my experience which I noticed. So there was a normal child who was like 1.5, 2 year old. It happened in my previous school. So the child was a brilliant child. Like, I would not say as a brilliant, but I generally, I'm talking about, he had a very good intellect. He was cognitively very smart, very fast in learning, understanding objects, and everything was awesome. But in the last half of the year, where we discuss with parents what is happening and all that, he stopped learning, he stopped enjoying stuff, he stopped sitting with friends, mingling with friends. This I'm talking about a 2.5-year-old child. Okay, so stopped mingling with friends. So we were like, as teachers, we don't like children facing that kind of a challenge. We spoke to parents. Parents were not able to tell us. And apparently, one fine day, this child cried loudly in the class because, of course, it was piling up, piling up, piling up. So he said that my mom, dad are fighting every day. They are quarreling, and probably mama, papa ko chhod ke chale jayenge. So those small little things, or like, not the social development, or what is happening in the family, what is happening, that is really affecting the child. That is really affecting the child so badly that, the child he was toilet trained, he started wetting his pants. He was potty trained, he started like, all the disturbances happened in this life. So just one part of development, or one thing happening in their life, can change overall development of the child, can change everything in the child, can change the mental peace of the child, can disturb the child so badly, that child. So that is why everything is so correlated, all the developments are so correlated, that any one thing, जैसे बोलते हैं ना, एक कड़ा है, एक छोटा सा कड़ा टूट जाएगा तो वो कड़ा टूट ही गया, then you cannot make a holistic development in the child as a overall. So that is how it is.
Thank you. So, okay, what key factors can affect child development? So just start with the Ketki ma'am.
Okay. So there are 2 factors we see generally, and there's a big debate on, whether it is nature or whether it is nurture that affects development. So again, let me share a screen. So nature, when we talk about nature, it refers to all the hereditary. Nature refers to, all the hereditary factors of, or the genes, like we said, in a child, like the physical appearance or the build of the child, or personality traits. Some of the personality traits that all come in the nature. And on the other hand, when we say nurture, there are the environmental factors that impact the personality traits of a child, like how the child is raised, where the child is raised, and how, like Swati ma'am just gave the example of how the child was disturbed when there was disturbance at home. So the environment in which the child is being raised, all of these are the factors that affect development. Uh, so the nature versus nurture debate, the biological factors, the nature are the hereditary, the nutrition, and gender. Okay, so hereditary, like I said, it is physical appearance and the personality traits, and sometimes some of the genetic diseases are also passed on to a child, right? So these are this affects development. Also, the what nutrition does a child get? It is if the child is getting a balanced diet or not, if it's well fed, well, that also affects development. And gender, of course, affects development, because boys and girls, that we see, they grow differently even if they are in the same environment. uh, the build, the body, and especially during puberty, uh, there's a lot of physical and changes that girls and boys go through, and we see that boys grow very differently from girls. And the environmental factors that affect development are geographical, like I said, where we live. If you live in a community which is rich in culture, and you have some parks nearby, you have a library nearby, or you can take your child for sports, or for other activities. If they are all nearby and you live in an area where you can take your child to activities and everything, then it makes a lot of difference. Also, the socio-economic status of the parents, because a lot of opportunities that certain a child who is born in a rich family gets, it's not necessary that the same opportunities a child in a low income family gets. So socio-economic status also is one of the environmental factors that affect your growth. And the most important is a loving family and a good school, because these are the two places where the child spends most of its times. Half of the time the child is in at home or is in school. So it is the both those. If they don't have a loving environment or a good school, then their interpersonal skills, or the social skills, social emotional skills, are not developed as well as someone who has a good and loving family and a good school.
So, Praveen, ma'am, what's your take on this?
So the factors which affect development is two factors. One is the biological factors, and another is the environmental factors. In biological factors, generally, which Ketki has already done a lot of, she has already described most of the things. In biological factors, generally, what are the genes? If there is any, how are the genes in the parents, and any family problems which can affect the genetic makeup of a child, that's very important. Then, as we said, maternal nutrition, antenatal history, natal history, postnatal history, how was the birth. So all these factors comes under genetic factors. And then the nutrition of a child, how is the, what is the gender of the child, all these things affect the biological part of the child and has a impact on the development. Then comes the environmental factors, very very important, for which we can do a lot of things, and we can change and we can modify and can enhance the, not nothing much can be done in at times for the biological factors, but environmental factors are the modifiable factors which can be changed, which includes any maternal stress, any family conflict, divorce, any other factors, any substance abuse in the family, plus the kind of environment and the socioeconomic status. All those things have a impact on the child development. That's
Okay, thank you, Swati, ma'am.
Okay, so over here, more or less everything is covered as usual. So not that I have too many things to add, but I will just so I'm only here for giving examples. So I'll end up the conversation by just giving a small example. So so basically, children with higher intellect, children with higher level of intelligence. Of course, it's some are acquired skills, some are inborn skills. We can't disagree to children who are born intelligent or born with those intellect skills. So the basically what happens is that there are two types of children. One, the children who are born with over intelligent skill. So what happens, they will choose things which are more challenging. They will choose questions which are more challenging. They will participate in things which will require more mental stress, because that will give a high in their confidence, or probably that will give a kick on their work, right? So that kind of children, we call it like a active gene environment correlation. That means actively they are their genes are so active, and hence they are acting in that manner. Now, second kind of like the passive ones, those who are evocative, they would have not that higher intelligence, so automatically they will choose things which are easier to be done, or they will do things which are repetitive, so that that will satisfy them, that I know this. And hence teachers also understand, teachers as in teachers understand that these kind of children have a lower intellect, and probably I will give them easier stuff. So these are one is based on their themselves. So basically genetically, when they are very very strong in intellect, they are able to choose challenging problems. However, in the other part, where the students who are not that intellectually strong, they are choosing things which are easier, and of course choosing environments which are repetitive, or probably they are easier to be grasped, easier to be taken, or that will give them the feeling of accomplishment faster.
Okay. Okay, so thank you, Swati ma'am. And thank you everyone for coming today and sharing your thoughts. And we got so many, objective and subjective responses. Yeah. And even I have learned so much about child development. I'm hoping that people will also learn from this session. And thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you
So
so much.
much.
Have a good day. Bye.
Thank you.